Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the LCK. It's a wonderful Saturday night, and I'm here with the man who got snacked. It's Papa. He's back. Thought he would be off today, but he's casting some League of Legends with me here on a wonderful Saturday. We got a couple of good matches here today. We got KT up against Kingzone first, mostly going to decide whether or not KT will go to relegations, and then Sandbox versus SKT to finish us off. Lots of playoff implications there.
LS, aka lamentably sick, couldn't join us today, unfortunately. Hopefully he'll be back for tomorrow. Don't like jumping into his time, but Papa on the weekend to bring in, like you say, the penultimate day of the regular season. Every team remaining has only got one match left, and thus we got to work out all this business, and we should actually know basically the entire relegation spots or the last order of business around relegations, because if KT do not win the match by any stat line, they are in relegations back-to-back.
Yeah, standing's very important to take a look at every single time we get down to the wire here. As you guys can see, as we mentioned, KT looking to take the win and then hope that Hanwha Life do lose tomorrow, I believe, up against Griffin, which definitely could happen, but KT up against Kingzone is going to be an interesting match because Kingzone, as you guys were mentioning yesterday, they don't have a way to make it into playoffs, so they're not going to relegations, they're not going to playoffs, they're kind of just fighting for pride at this point, so we'll see what kind of form they're in up against the KT, who are here to scrap.
But let's be fair, there's a lot obviously going around the Kingzone org in the last month or so, so I think pride counts. You know, they had that win over Jinair, and otherwise nothing's been going well for Kingzone. So given this is goodbye, you know, we will not see Kingzone until, I guess, the Worlds qualification. They'll be in and around there. You know, it's goodbye for now. And it's also potentially going to be a lot of time behind the scenes trying to have a mental reset before those Worlds qualifiers. So I think Kingzone, it is an important time to get the 2-0. We just have to have the laser focus on KT Rolster, our summer champions from last year. They will not be going into playoffs. It will not be another summer finals for KT. Let's see how things go, because if you're ever going to strike Kingzone Dragon X down, maybe today's the day.
Definitely could be the day. You guys can look at the bottom and see that Kingzone in recent times, since 2018 spring, they've been on a 7-match winning streak against KT. That was even when KT was decent last year and, you know, making playoffs and stuff like that. So kind of interesting that Kingzone has had their number for a while here.
There is that confirmation. Today's loss, if it happens, will automatically lock KT in relegation. Their game score is too far inferior of Hanwha Life, so Hanwha Life would go into that Griffin series with honestly nothing to play for except a goodbye, because that would actually be Hanwha Life's last series before 2020. Kingzone Dragon X should be playing in the Worlds Gauntlet because they finished third in spring, but I haven't had a chance to look at points, and we already know how close everything is. Kingzone third in first turret percentage, as you can see, and wow, a lot of Rift Heralds from the side of Kingzone. Now, Rift Herald obviously has been a hotly contested objective so far in 2019, but not always the right place to go. If you're going to get it late or if you're going to give up too much, sometimes it ain't worth it.
Yeah, but shout out to the stats team to find one stat that's really good for both teams for 7th versus 9th. Rift Herald's down there, good for both Kingzone and KT. You'll notice that outside of that, a lot of the stats kind of reflecting where these teams are, although a relatively high first blood percentage for KT as well. They're 4th overall here. Going to take a look at some highlights. This was the game that Jovi played Cassidy. Very fun to watch. I think you and Atlas were covering this one, but Kingzone were not happy about that pick and wanted to shut it down, and at least got the 1 kill.
There's actually a lot of spice. He was here. I was at home watching the Cassidy. I was happy to see, because Cassidy and Corki is kind of a famous matchup, but the lane swaps happened. It was definitely not the cleanest, but Griffin got over the line in the end. Watching the replay of KT's last time out, that was against Sandbox earlier this week. Another tussle, right? This was 3 games. KT could definitely have won this series. In the end, even with the Baron steals, KT weren't able to finally get over the line. Would have been a very important match victory that they desperately need today.
Yeah, that one at the bottom of the title was Smite King's score. Was this time at least. Yeah, I mean, it was a hard-fought series. Definitely a kind of depressing one towards the end for KT fans, as nothing seemingly has been going too right for them, other than the one win that they did take up against Sandbox that time around. We're going to highlight the junglers here for our main players. Cuzz has got some pretty sick stats, actually, for being on the 7th place team. And Score, well, he likes the counter jungle.
Cuzz would have been our best jungler in the first half of the season, has fallen away with his team as the season has gone on. Meanwhile, Score would have been our best jungler for a couple of years there. Past couple of years, but this year not being so kind. If KT win today, they will, likely not play again in 2019, so it could actually be Score's farewell game in kind of a weird situation as well. Very, very likely to go on to military service next year, so there's a lot around the rift. Here we have a lot of KT fans, as always, trying to see their charges. We're still filling up. 4:58 p.m. on a sleepy Saturday. I only found out a few hours ago I'd be coming in, so I feel the same emotions as the players.
You watched a lot of LEC last night,
I did.
I'm assuming.
I got to bed at 7 a.m. Don't judge me. As in roll, Kingzone Dragon X. Brave faces for this team, but the smiles that kind of dominated the conversation for our darlings of Rift rivals. The smiles, maybe a match victory is required to bring them back.
Yeah, they're coming out here for one last stand, basically. This will be their last before we do get into World Qualifiers, as we mentioned before. Naehyun packing the hot packs today. He's got 2 of them, actually. Whereas they will be going up for KT. We're kind of fighting for their lives not to make it into relegations. They went to relegations in spring, by the way, guys, with Jin Air. They won very fast. I don't think they dropped a single game there. So we'll see what happens this time, depending on who does go down to that relegation match.
Still, there's the ignominy of being there twice in a row, even with roster changes, even with bringing in Prey, like all the fans were singing for. Not enough has changed. Korean love hearts are out there. Smeb is not. Smeb in the back, though. I did see Smeb, and my guess is if they lose a game, Smeb will play because of what the game represents. Still, no inside info on that one. Just going to be reading the tea leaves as KT, again, didn't get blown away by Sandbox. And you look at Kingzone, and I think every team in the LCK could say, if we come in with a strong game plan and execute it, Kingzone are not the same handful they were in the first 5 weeks of the season. So there's a real chance that KT arrest the losing streak against Kingzone and find a victory today.
Yeah, I think there's a real chance it at least goes to 3 games. I would say that's a relatively high probability here this time around. Kingen is going to be starting, as we did mention, as I'm just ready to get into these matches. It's been a while for me. I was here last Saturday, but...
Me too. It's been a while. Hours.
First thing I said to you was, oh, welcome back. Nice to see you here. As if Papa has not been here in Lal Park enough. As, headsets are on. The fans are ready. SpongeBob listening to the cons. And it's saying that Kingzone is going to win, apparently.
Wow, okay. There's Xayah. Praise Xayah. Something that he's been playing a lot of recently. And I do expect, as we get into pick ban, multiple Prey bans, because he's been very top-heavy in his effective champion pool. He gets Kalista bans, no one else gets Kalista bans, but let's add a wrinkle. It's Deft and TusiN, so they also draw a lot of respect. So the potential for there to be quite a lot of bot lane focus between pick bans and even in-game will be interesting, because if you just leave it to be an isolated 2v2, hard to look past Deft and TusiN.
Yeah, absolutely. And in years past, Prey versus Deft was a pretty massive matchup. As nowadays, absolutely, Deft would get the favor. But let's hop into pick ban here. You see a lot of attention towards the tankier boys there on the left side.
The thicker the better, it seems, with the ban list. what could be even thicker about us? We've got any other big... How about Gragas support? Nope. Sadly, Gragas gonna make it through. And it's pretty academic from there. Some teams, and earlier in this season, it definitely would have been Azir first pick, right, for Kingzone. But Kingzone, as a Akali top lane team, will lock in the Akali, most likely for Rascal.
Yeah, and both the Naehyun and BDD big Azir players, so I think locking it up here and not giving Azir and Akali over to Kingzone is smart. You mentioned the Xayah. There were actually no bans towards Prey by Kingzone this time around, so he gets his pick of the litter with that Xayah pick.
Potential for Rakan, but most teams have been moving away from Rakan recently, and another reason you may be forced to do so is you can pick a strong Varus lane into the Xayah Rakan, and that might dissuade Rakan. We saw already BDD showing us the Shurima mid lane matchup. Do we have another Shurima aspirant here?
My mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me Vel'Koz, apparently. As a...
Those were your eyes.
Yeah.
Part of your body, I guess, but, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Yeah, just another long-range kind of guy that can zap you down, and it's not a pick that's had a ton of success, and they do go for that one and leave the Aatrox open, so that's going to be immediately picked up here by KT.
I'd like to see Jarvan picked away or banned by KT, because you think about how Kingzone is going to work, and Rascal dives in. Both Varus and Vel'Koz kind of want to breathe and set up, so you kind of need ways for there to be a lot of zone control or crowd control in front of them. And something like a Jarvan makes sense, even though it's not a usual Cuzz pick, and they're actually going to ban Jarvan themselves here. So maybe they're going to go for a kind of a timing attack-based comp rather than anything that would involve team fighting, because if you're going to take away Jarvan, it probably has to be, well, let's get picks and siege, but maybe not ever look to team fight.
Not going to be the choice for them just yet. They want to make that Varus lane a little bit more vulnerable, it seems. KT do, so they're going to take away Braum and Morgana. Just see if they can attack Deft's lane.
They want to try to find a way to get a safe Rakan on the KT side, or just a safer 2v2 laning phase. They might actually have to hold SnowFlower's support for last pick. Many teams do not want to allow themselves to be counterpicked by Deft TusiN, who already have the skill edge on pretty much any 2v2 among LCK teams. Gragas ban coming out from Cuzz. Cuzz frustrated, he has to ban his own stuff.
Yeah.
You do wonder if he just randomly plays Karthus. I wouldn't like to see it here. It'd be way too much magic damage.
Yeah, I think we can kind of scrap that one off the table. Definitely a question, though, as to what is Score going to play as well. Skarner moving up in priority. Nowadays, we are going to see that picked here.
And they have to hold on to support pick because they do not want to deal with counter pick. Small chance, actually, that we do see the Vel'Koz support, I guess. But given the matchup against Azir, almost certainly mid. What's Cuzz doing is what we've been wondering. Would love to see the Nidalee on another day, one of his most played in solo queue in his history, but doesn't really fit the comp they have. And okay, we had a lot of Draven Thresh blind picks this week, and we get the Varus Thresh, so it's still super high priority. Again, plays into the pick comp ideal. We're going very win lane, 2-item carry on the side of Kingzone. How do you round it out, though?
With a early game aggressive pick from the jungle, and that's going to be Xin Zhao coming out here right now.
So KT had taken the scaling route. Hard not to when Kingzone draft like this. What are we going to close out the matchup with? Because when you're thinking of supports to run into the Thresh, Morgana, obviously a clear one, is taken away. Wonder what you do to try to stave off here. Alistar is a classic, of course, because you can just tank the hook post 6. He's actually considering the Shen support in this case, but we'll go Alistar for matchup. Now this, unfortunately, doesn't help the laning phase. So you are tanking the laning phase here because pre-6, Alistar doesn't really want to get hooked, right? And you can also potentially bait out Aftershock and then kill Alistar. But matchup does scale to be a good one. KT, when it comes to scaling, has it in abundance, but if Cuzz gets going, Valdez, the steamroll potential for Kingzone is real.
And you were mentioning before, that's kind of what they were thinking. with the draft that they were going for. Coming out here, they're going to have a bit of fun as well. I feel like it's a fun kind of draft. And, they've only got one match. It doesn't really matter to them, so they're going to play for fun and for pride.
So what you're saying is they're in for a good time, not a long time.
Absolutely.
That seems to be exactly what they're setting up for here. Vel'Koz's zoning exists in the early to mid game, but in the late game, no one cares about Thresh. They run straight past him, and then unfortunately Vel'Koz dies instantly. So, because of that, let's wait and watch the jungle matchup. I think that is going to be the swingiest one here. Xin Zhao priority is so up and down based on players and also weeks. Like, OnFlick is our only big Xin Zhao player, and even he has moved away from it recently. AT had to hold that counter pick, but because they had banned away a lot of the lane presence counters into Thresh, they were forced into this Alistar. So it definitely doesn't help their early game calculation, and they move away from Rakan, mostly out of fear that Rakan would get flayed and then deaded.
Yeah, no Rakan, and no Olaf, actually, by Cuzz either into the Skarner matchup. Was wondering if we'd see that after Tarzan, but either way, guys, we're ready to jump into game one, so let's do that now. Alrighty, well, we're back on the Rift here on a nice little Saturday. The weather wasn't so bad, the clouds were out. It wasn't too hot, not too humid. So it was...
Got the Goldilocks and the Three Bears going on.
Yeah,
just
it was just right.
There
well,
you go.
If it was a little bit cooler, it would have been better. But we got to wait for fall for that to happen.
What is your favorite weather? Like when people discuss whether like hot or humid or cold or... give me like what the weather reporter says, and you're like, damn, that's what I wanted.
Well, Korea has 4 seasons, but they kind of make fun of spring and fall because they only last for like 2 to 3 weeks. And then it's either super humid and hot or freezing and super windy and dry.
And you can get more specific. You can do some dreaming here. It doesn't have to be like what you get in Korea. Like, what does it look like for Valdez when he's really hyped?
So I was mentioning that because actually the fall weather out here is exactly what I like. I mean, it's breezy, but it's a nice warm breeze, not too cold, right? It's the exact amount of dry, but not too dry, right? Because we're moving into winter where it gets really dry here. So which means it's not too humid, right? It's perfect weather for going down to the Han River, eating some chicken, drinking some beer, chimek,
This is a bad laning phase. Level 1 here is actually abysmal because Alistar doesn't have a level 1, and Prey keenly aware of that. So, sad times in the 2v2. So, I understand. I'm role-playing. I'm living at Valdez, and I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. It's beautiful. If you guys are ever considering coming to Korea, try to come in spring or fall. Fall is better than spring because there's less dust, actually. That blows over.
You're getting very real now about life on the ground, Korea realities.
Yeah,
the fine dust.
The fine dust comes in the spring, I guess, because of the weather.
We try to cut out some of the like slightly more like askew things, like the military service realities, and also the fine dust and how hot and cold it gets.
Yeah, you're calling it fine dust, meaning it's very. It's very small and hard to see. Not that it's a good thing or that it's okay.
I think if
not
you
that
Google
kind of
it,
fine.
fine dust is like the actual thing that's cold. But you're right. It is an interesting thing to talk about. Is speaking of interesting things to talk about, Score has to deal with losing lanes and a Xin Zhao.
Ooh, nice steal here. And SnowFlower just going to say, okay, well, I'm not going in there.
They don't have any wards to spot that TusiN was actually quite far away. I don't think TusiN would have had lanterns, so... with more information, maybe you do flash poll. In that case, it didn't have it. So, given they were already on the defensive ebb, kind of makes sense that it went that way. Sad days for the Smite situation. For me, if you're going to ask this in a vacuum, not a kind of Korea reality, but my favorite weather, it's overcast, but with no chance of rain. So,
yeah,
I like that because you can go and play sport, and you're not going to get as sweaty because you're not going to deal with the sun's rays. But as long as you know it's not going to rain, which obviously is a lot more situational, that's kind of what I'm into.
I mean, it's perfect for outdoor sports, as you mentioned, because you don't have the sun beating down on you. It's not super cold or anything like that, I'm assuming. based on your example. So I'll give that one 2 thumbs up as well. And we always give Rascal's Akali in the top lane 2 thumbs up. As already
he's the one still playing it. Everyone else is given up on top lane Akali. It's been a mid lane only pick, but it's been kind of a quirk of Kingzone. Is there's definitely champions that Naehyun doesn't play that Rascal does play. And through all of his days as a sub, this year as a starter, he's been a top lane mage player. So there's just certain picks you associate with him, and any other team in the LCK locks in first pick Akali, and you're like 99% sure it's mid, but we were actually very confident in being the top lane one this time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to see the return of lethality bars. Nice little trade down here, though. TusiN nearly gets locked up by the feathers, but actually Prey gets taken out as the ranged minions doing a big help there as well. Wow, didn't expect that amount of damage, I assume, and Deft gonna already pick up first blood.
So lethality Varus to make his life even worse. I wonder if he saw the Alistar and then made the adjustment to lethality to guarantee it would be just an awful laning phase. 2v2 kill. Prey was a little bit better his last couple of series, but going down there is awkward. Not all his fault, but certainly the sort of thing that is hard to process. Watch the replay here, and you know, just what does Alistar do? I mean, to be fair, Alistar combos in and they don't kill TusiN. Then Alistar does nothing.
And Prey.
Let's listen here.
Oh my gosh! There you go. No need for a translation there.
You there? What did he say?
Well, that's exactly the way I felt as well. As Deft, the entire time the trade was going on, he did not auto Alistar even once. He was autoing Prey. He's like, Prey, you gotta be careful. I'm gonna kill you. And it seemed like Prey was not getting the message.
And what did we learn? And what do you learn as you kind of start to play a lot of ranked and you play some bot lane? Maybe you weren't a bot lane player to begin with. You do learn about focusing the support. As how about focusing the top laner?
Cuzz gonna go in there first. Teleport gonna be used as the flash comes in, but perfect execution. We'll be able to finish that one off as BDD wants to get the trade kill. Should be able to here as Cuzz considering a trade, but not going to be able to as enough Sand Soldiers come out and he'll go down.
Still, do not trifle with Hail of Blades Xin Zhao. He is no joke on the re-engage there, but will go down. Nice dive from Kingzone, was really clean, and it requires extra resources. BD having to teleport there. Naehyun gets a plate and a good laning matchup for the Vel'Koz, getting closer and closer to being able to AFK wave clear with the W. Here is the replay. Nicely executed. Kingzone look on point today. How they're playing out the game. Can't really make this dive any better. And if the TP comes in and BD uses everything, well, just kind of have to die.
Take a look at just how much damage Cuzz does. I think he smited right at the end there. Maybe that's because it was 15 seconds after he smited under the turret. I didn't actually get to see when he first challenge smited, but I'd say that's a pretty decent chance.
You often, as Xin Zhao, underrate your damage. That's what happens in scenarios very often there. So yeah, there maybe was a window. I didn't see if the cooldown on challenging smite to begin with, so like you say, hard to fully calculate it, but it was way closer than I think we were all expecting. Calculations have been off today, and maybe that again is my filling in today, pop on the weekend brain, but also it might just be that, you know, we've just had Prey and then potentially BDD be surprised by huge amounts of damage. Cuzz on a ward here. He might not know. He knows now.
Yeah, take that out. As Score just says, okay, maybe I can steal some Raptors. Nice little trade, I suppose, but not going to steal too many of them. He's level 6 with Flash, and so he's looking for the Impale play here, as BDD is doing basically a perfect job of baiting. As here we go, looking for it now, the Flash on in, and you are so dead. Doesn't even need to use the Impale. As Cuzz gets there a little bit too late, BDD able to set up the kill. As now he can use that Impale onto the Xin Zhao, who's going to be thinking about that ultimate, but it's 1-on-4, buddy. As you're also going to go down, and KT Not a bad start after a couple of good kills.
Some masterful baiting in the mid lane, and the second kill was nicely engineered as well. Didn't overuse their resources. Nice look from KT. After Kingzone opened up well, and Rascal, with the chain arms there, takes a big burst of damage as well.
Deft trying to come in here with TusiN. They're going to lock down the jungler and take him down just like that. The rest of KT just leaves them out to dry, as now Naehyun able to come back with his teleport. Kingzone are going to look to take the Infernal Drake now.
We're getting a lot of swings here. The action is coming in thick and fast. Maybe we all have to slap some water on our faces and wake up Valdez around the world. As Kingzone and KT are going blow for blow. 3 kills to 3. Only thing Kingzone has to supplant them, though, is the gold lead, largely manufactured in top and bottom.
Yeah, they're definitely having a good time there. Deft now with the second kill after TusiN was able to set up that one. Nicely done by the bottom lane to go in there 2v4, essentially. They had Naehyun coming in late, but they set up the kill onto the jungler, and then KT knew it was all over from there.
Well, watch over the replay. BDD plays this so well. Had his flash up, didn't use it. Top comes in, and then Score smartly didn't use his ult either. Was watching picture in picture to see if there's any action. Cuzz comes in. TusiN thinks he's done his solid with the lantern, but ain't no lantern right out. Didn't even need a control ward to block that one up. Gonna get the replay of this secondary play here. The death sentence aptly named when you have a lethality Varus. And a cool little quirk, and we were speaking about this yesterday, is another game where we have lethality Varus in the game and Azir, and that used to be the hard counter to Azir mid lane was lethality Varus. Saw that matchup so much in 2016 onwards. Fun quirk from there is that we have Vel'Koz, a pocket counter to Azir, and lethality Varus. So let me tell you a story. Okay. If Kingzone get bot lane turret first and start roaming, Thresh is the best roaming support when you have the ability to come from darkness, and they have a siege duo that both counter Azir. So BDD will be very, very tilted if that happens. So KT need to find a way to extend the laning phase bot lane or to keep eyes on Thresh. If they don't keep tabs on him, this game could be snowballing very quickly mid-game-wise for Kingzone.
See if they can keep tabs on him up towards the Rift Herald now.
Oh, we're all moving. The rotators are beginning.
Yeah, Kingzone coming on in. We talked about that stat. They are first place in the LCK for Rift Heralds taken. I believe it was 29 before this matchup. So looking at the 30th time, Shelly has been taken down here by the side of Kingzone. Going to pick that up on time as well. So it's not one of those less worthwhile takes. Looking to potentially use that up in the top lane as flash on in. There's the knockup. You are so dead. As Deft able to set that one up. Surprising BDD. Probably scared him on that play.
But the nice thing about the play is they're doing a bit of everything. They jam the Rift Herald top as the Varus could have potentially sieged onto mid lane. They're continuing to make the plays here. Xayah walking up. We'll see if there's any action happening bot lane. Unlikely. Multiple plays come in top side. The flash play there doesn't get them anything immediately, as Alistar will be able to come up and at least stop there being a plate taken. Nice little action, and it seems like, in Deft we trust, we're back to the spring season win conditions.
And he's 3-0 too on this lethality Varus. It gets really scary, especially. We've seen what lethality Varus can do with 2-3 items, but when he scales up this fast, I feel like it's even scarier, as your team will struggle to put together any kind of defense against that.
It's just illegal damage. When he gets ahead and has that third Dirk item and you're working on your second item as like an Aatrox, holy moly does he do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, he's got one Dirk. He's working on his second one here.
How many long swords is he into his build? So that's 6 long swords in. He's going to build a lot of swords.
Yeah, he's also got a Doran's Blade. Kind of a sword.
Do you reckon there should be an item, so in other MOBAs, I'm thinking of original Dota here, that had the Divine Rapier, right? Where it was the item where if you killed the wearer, it would drop and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you reckon there should be any items like that, or items that only one team can buy, or like items that run out of stock, can only be 3 BF swords in the game? Like, is there any reason to get crazy with items, do you think? Because I feel like the item situation...
That is a very complicated question.
We're just, you know, we're just wondering out loud. The reason why I bring it up is I feel like items in League are pretty kind of like, you always go down a certain path. There isn't so much situational building. There could be ways to warp items, right?
I suppose so.
Would you find that interesting, or would you find that fun to have kind of like different kinds of items rather than just, well, you can always buy this?
I like items that drop because that's actually a lot of fun. It feels good to go on a streak with those items, but also when you finally kill that guy that picks it up.
What comp would build
great.
the equivalent of Divine Rapier? Would it be like, let's think back to SKT earlier this week where you play Varus 1 damage comp. Does he go up because if he dies, the game's over anyway?
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. Otherwise, a big poke champion that's not going to be in range at all. Like
then they would end up being
Varus,
nerfed, right? Because then it's like, well, we can't kill the guy who bought the item that drops.
But that's the point, right? Otherwise, you would have to lower the risk of taking the item, as 5 members of KT really want to get on top of this mountain tree. As Rascal does have teleport, we'll see when he does decide to go in for that, if he does. As already TPing out here, as we're going to try to go for the kills,
Doing the swapsies here.
Yeah, here
5v4.
comes Akali.
They're going to force this.
Yeah, SnowFlower in a bit of trouble here, but they'll probably be looking for more.
Oh, they will be.
As they don't just want the cow.
They're going in.
We're looking for the dive. It's 5-on-3. That's insane amount of damage already coming out here from Deft. AoE from Rascal as Prey. Not going to go down, actually. Bit of a knockup on a Rascal and a stun now, as only one of them will be going down. It feels like Kingzone could have got more, but it ends up just being the jungler.
Oh, look at Rascal's cooldown at the top. Just didn't have the ability to connect with perfect execution. Was on cooldown. There was 3 kills lining up in a straight line. That cooldown was up, and KT are actually doing a number. We thought that would be just going to be multiple kills coming down, but the fact that they don't get that, and they get both a turret, a lot of standing damage onto the mid lane, does make it a lot more of an equivalent trade than it first appeared.
At the end of the day, KT should be pretty happy with the way it all panned out.
This is a very bold TP envisioned to do, and it led to the trading places between the two teams. But from there, SnowFlower could engineer a pretty creative way to at least buy time. The turret was never going to be enough, given that it was 5v3 Valdez. So to only lose 1 in a 5v3 is actually pretty huge for the side of KT.
Yeah. Score was the hero. He was the one who set up the stuns, the impales to deny all the extra kills. So even though he's the only one that went down and it was kind of sad, he saved his 2 teammates. So he does deserve a bit of praise. By the way, this new graph came up when I was watching actually earlier this week. This is a fantastic graph because I find all those small numbers on the bottom side much harder to actually discern and figure out who's got what kind of gold and who's got a lead. But this is actually my favorite graph in recent times.
Yeah, I saw on Twitch the fans are really enjoying it. I always look at the numbers because I'm thinking about what they represent in terms of total amount of gold towards items and things like that. But I love the fact that we have visual representations of stuff that if you don't have time to talk about gold numbers, then a lot of info is missed. But look, very, very clear on that one. So shout out to the Riot Korea side for doing cool new things. People are looking at more than the lowest number, which is always, always a good thing.
It's definitely a good graph for sure. As actually, I don't know if that would qualify as a graph. Maybe that's a chart or I don't know.
It's more of a chart than a graph.
A graphical representation. So maybe it's a graph and it's not a chart. Okay.
We spent far too much time thinking about this, as Kingzone haven't been able to engineer the downfall of mid lane outer turret, even with that Cuzz and Varus duo. They can't just stay in the same lane forever, given how side lanes work, but they're hoping that the next wave is the one. They don't really have it. I guess Cuzz could just ult to try to zone people away, but they don't have, say, a Gragas to push people away.
Yeah. It's pretty sick poke comp that we do have going on already from the side of Kingzone, poke and pick. Cuzz was actually hovering Nidalee in this game. Would have been interesting to see how Nidalee would have fit in the composition as well with her spears. Nobody's really gone full poke comp, I I feel. We've had a bit of, you know, Jace and Ezreal and stuff like that. As SnowFlower doesn't have his ultimate, that death sentence is barely gonna miss. And at the end of the day, Rascal gonna not decide to go in. They zone him out and are looking to push this turret as BDD. Where did your health go? What's going on, buddy? Got hit by one piercing arrow and a Vel'Koz Q, and he was already basically dead. Has to back away.
Let me draw your attention to double completed Dirk items on Tavares. He is really, really strong.
It's too many Dirks.
It is, in fact. The third Dirk will be on the way. Will we see the Quadra Dirk? Much rarer. Possible, though.
Yeah.
Whoa, that damage text is actually very large. Kingen's build is very non-standard in this game. He went Maw. The reason why we didn't see the Nidalee is that Maw would have been even more effective than it already is in this game, where it's pretty effective. The triple Dirk items are done. I think Naehyun's done the right thing. He's going full catch build and saying, yep, Varus will kill people, and he really will.
Yeah. He's gotten the Glacial Augment, and definitely a fun build to go. You guys have never tried it out.
I think Kingen's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because this build does condemn him to never have his core items on time. Like, his core items will be super duper late, but if you don't go this build, you do pop pretty quickly. I'm usually a fan of trying to make other things work. As Flash
trying to find the Akali and push her away from that shroud. She gets back in and is going to perfect execution away to safety. And at the end of the day, will be the flash and a couple of ults used for just the one ult from the Akali.
Didn't see how the Emperor's Divide didn't seem to displace. Maybe it was into a wall and thus had no displacement. Meanwhile, onto the Drake.
All right, trying to snipe that one was Deft. Score is going to be able to pick that one up, but for the cost of his life, and maybe Praise is going to have to go into that Featherstorm to get out of there. And so another Drake will go the way of KT, but we're not done with this fight yet, guys. As, okay, gonna come down here. It is the Cow, though. Not really able to leash that one onto anyone else, but Kingen, you mentioned, only has that ball. It's gonna pop to not much avail. SnowFlower trying to create room, but everybody on the side of KT so low, and Rascal's here in the back line now. Make that 2 kills. We're going to 4. They're all gonna get shut down as a quick cleanup comes in from Kingzone.
Kingzone did a really good job of surrounding, and their killing fields were so real with this Varus under no threat, and this Akali 4-0-0 out of nowhere. Not a secret agent. This is on the most wanted list. Is both the Varus and the Akali. Push through mid lane here, and Score's going to get a wrapped a bit. He knows he doesn't help on the siege at all.
He tried to do his job earlier with the flash impale onto the Akali, but once that didn't kill the Akali, and she came back into the fight without even using her ultimate or her flash or her teleport, and they get 4 kills. Looks pretty good, as now Cuzz was looking to be in a bit of trouble, but that impale cooldown just a little bit too far off as KT.
Olo Baron, they have to try something. They're already 8,000 gold behind. This is on a very obvious reset. They're going to get this one, I think.
Yeah, TPs are coming in, but Cuzz is going to be zoned out, and there you go. Nicely done by KT to pick up that Baron, as Prey is a bit low. It looks like a couple of kills will go the way of Kingzone after that one. Rascal, though, trying to make it some more. Looking to get on top of Kingen here. Can he 100-0 him as the Maw is in effect? And he is going to survive just because of that item. So Baron taken by KT, but the push is on by Kingzone.
This is a lot of trading places here as a smart Baron call. Well done by KT, but because the minion wave can be taxied down, they are actually going to get the mid lane inhibitor against Baron. Showing a lot of respect. Final hits go down. Deft needs to hit it. Doesn't hit it. Minions, hello? Hello, minions?
My God.
Hello? Nope.
Guys, come on.
Well, that was actually very hard not to get him, but they managed to.
Def was running away, and they were like, no, you got to hit it one more time. He came back, he hit it once.
And he also summoned his Q instead of autoing.
Yeah. Oh, that's a tilter. Oh, man.
Yeah, he started hold and Q at the wrong time there. Let's call that a whoopsies from KT.
Yeah.
From Kingzone, sorry, because it actually is good for KT, right? Theoretically, with that inhibitor knocked down, try and deep freeze Valdez. Ooh.
we don't have last stand here.
That's AKA last scene in his freezing video. King Zone potentially, you know, it's a surround. That's the big thing here, is they're able to surround and there's no threat on people. They try to turn on the Cuzz, but of all people, he's the most dispensable. I like how Deft changes his angle, because they've got a, I believe, 2 or 3-0 Akali on one end and a Varus they can't walk past on the other end. However, shout out to KT. They played this Baron well, and SnowFlower's goaltending to stop anyone coming to contest it was really clean.
It was about the only thing they could do from there, and it was the exact right thing to do, as Rascal going in again. Thinking about it here, you mentioned 3-0 Akali. He's 4-0 now. Deft is 5-0. FLICKR is a little bit sad that he doesn't get to join that cool kids party. He has the 1 death, but at least he has more assists than the other 2 guys. So 3, 1, and 4. Everybody on King Zone pretty happy about their score lines, especially 007, Secret Agent in the bot lane.
I kind of wish we could see a replay of the inhibitor take, because we did, of course, have the very interesting quirk at MSI, where there was a time that G2 tanked their inhibitors so they could actually set up a freeze. That was the last time we've seen a big competitive freeze. I can't, in that particular case, it did not look at all like that they left up the inhibitor on purpose, but if we slow it down without stars in our eyes, maybe there's something there. I think it's unlikely, but interesting that you don't often see that, right? Where they really could have gotten the inhibitor, but didn't.
Yeah. A very rare occurrence here at the LCK and in League of Legends in general. We got 2 people top lane for KT as the Baron buff, seemingly enough to thwart off the rest of King Zone from pushing in the mid and bottom lane. So I like the idea. BDD just solo pushing the top lane, and Cuzz now going to go for that Cloud Drake.
Gold-wise, King Zone in a huge lead. No longer a Baron buff to respect on the side of KT. KT have extended the game, and remember, KT have the true stakes today. King Zone playing for pride. And while KT desperately need a match victory, they have to win by any stat line to make their plight at least delayed 1 day. UmTi can still overtake them if they beat Griffin tomorrow, but with Griffin's recent form, that looks unlikely. KT, most they can do is win a match today, but at this present point, looking very, very tricky, even though you do have obvious scaling on the KT side. So if it stays around this gold lead and KT get to 55,000, then I think there's definitely games that they win, but right now, looking tricky, and Kingen still kind of working on core itemization 2 items in.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's about delaying the game here for KT when you're down this much. If they just sit back and get poked and they're not proactive in some of their decisions, then I think they might just lose the game. Whereas, you know, it's heavy engaged. You've got Skarner, Azir, Aatrox, and Alistar, obviously. Good for getting in there and getting dirty up against a lot of poke and pick from the side of King Zone.
Well, you get 1 go, right? You get in there, and if you don't get in there, or if you change your mind, you get poked to death.
You lose.
You got to be decisive, and that's not necessarily a word I would associate with KT in 2019. But the Baron call was very decisive in this game, so that was kind of the big decisive moment.
Deft win 4 Dirks.
He did.
He got
Quadra
there.
Dirk.
Finally.
That's a lot of Dirks.
Yeah. Never before seen in the medical community, but we have it here in this game. 4 Dirks being lined up in a row.
He should do a Reddit AMA about it.
He absolutely should. He just keeps building them. I don't know how that's even possible.
You can't build anymore. That's all. That's the maximum amount of Dirks. Even more interestingly, he has 14 longswords so far purchased.
Wow.
I know.
That's a lot of longswords.
I know. His sword length all together, extremely long.
Yeah. He's got the most swords in the game as we're flashing in. Deft wants to do a little bit of ruler cosplay here. Landed the Chains of Corruption, but nothing else happened.
And KT running straight down mid lane. What are we doing, Kingen?
Well, they just got out-rotated, I suppose, as they are all out of position in the top lane. Now on Vision, and KT want to take this one. He talked about diving past Thresh and killing that FLICKR. They're able to do that And now TusiN in a really bad spot is going to be going down here as well. And look at the timing, guys. We got another Baron that KT have a chance to take down.
Kingzone just went separately one by one into the colossal teamfight comp, died, and they're going to lose Baron again.
Well, you talked about delaying games. Kingzone certainly helping KT do exactly that.
They're delivering games, not delaying games in this particular one.
Yeah.
What is Kingzone doing? Naehyun, TusiN, SnowFlower, they don't know where the enemies are against Predator Skarner, and everyone just kind of rolls around.
Deft's backing. He's like, yeah, guys, I'll teleport.
This is a bit
to the
scary.
fight.
I'll, let's be safe here.
Yeah, I'll get there eventually. And it's not, it's not his fault. I'm not making that voice because it's his fault. It's just the team not communicating and just weirdly rotating into 5 members of KT.
Because what did we talk about with this team comp? Kingzone need space to allow Vel'Koz and Varus to do their thing. Varus knew this and left. Vel'Koz was trying to help face check with his team. They had to be much more respectful than they were with the limited vision control they did. And now KT, scaling be damned, you find another fight like that. If people are coming in one by one, you're killing them real fast.
Absolutely. Kingzone kind of have to get their stuff together, to put it lightly. Maybe I can say get their mundos together. As score waiting in the brush, Chains of Corruption did go wide. The push is on this time around with the Baron. It's not just sitting back and delaying the game for KT. They actually are looking to push. Not doing half bad job with the way the game is going and the fact they're down 6,000 gold right now.
A full channel Q to Prey, I think, does 80% of his health.
He's having trouble landing those, though. Deft.
How's he doing, Doe?
Thinking about dough, I was making some pizza recently.
Really?
Yeah.
What type of pizza was it?
It was just basil on top. Cheese pizza with basil.
You say basil differently to how I say it, so that's what I was thinking about.
Oh.
I say basil.
Basil?
Yeah.
Sounds like some kind of rare Australian animal.
Oh,
yeah, the endangered species.
The noble basil.
The basil, yeah. Hiding out in the mountainous regions.
It's like a brown wombat.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Seems reasonable. Seems good.
Well, the Baron's still there for a minute, so this siege could be good.
That's okay.
Oh!
Big engage by SnowFlower. He wants the win. As Cuzz now gonna get the knock up the full channel here by Naehyun.
Rascal!
Well, the idea, we liked it from SnowFlower, but I suppose it wasn't that good in the end. As Rascal did get into that back line and dissuade Kingen and B2D from getting in there. Lots of low health bars on the side of Kingzone, so KT still pushing forward. 2v5.
2v4. That's the trade. It was a 3-for-1 trade, and yet KT still have the Baron. They're going to push in. Can Kingzone punish this?
Close.
They need to get some kills here.
He's going to get the flay into trying to knock
Kingen is popping off.
Kingen, though, in a bit of trouble. Maybe he got a little bit too close to the fire as, wow, that's a lot of damage. Now BDD is going to get the 1,000 bounty away from that Varus. Rascal in a bit of trouble. We had enough time to get another ultimate from Naehyun. As down he finally went. Guys, this is a bit messy.
It is ultra messy, Valdez. It's not two teams in form, but it is an important game. So in the Fiesta, we now need to take a deep breath and point out something. We got to 55,000 gold. The gold lead got smaller, so if they don't actually dot their I's and cross their T's, and trust me, it feels like Kingzone don't have I or T in their vocabulary.
No.
They've been cutting those letters. They're cutting corners. The alphabet's 20 letters long, it seems. KT can definitely win team fights. Kingzone need to poke first. They need to pick first. They haven't necessarily shown that level of fundamentals in their earlier play. Can we kill the objective, please?
What is going on? Okay.
SnowFlower got just a sick WQ here, but the problem with it is, consider what happens if they don't kill the people he WQs. He backs away, there's a turret for safety, and Varus and Vel'Koz can do their thing. It went a bit either way. However, KT actually trade up 2v4 after this, because with the Baron buff, they get quite a lot, and then a 1-for-2 trade getting the inhibitor, not bad by any real stretch of the imagination.
Kingen nearly able to go MVP mode. BDD, they kind of went in one by one. Kingen first and then BDD. Imagine if they just focused their damage onto the one target at the same time.
Imagine if these two teams had to do trust falls. There would be a lot of people with back injuries. I'll catch you when I fall. Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I got a cacao message. I need to check my phone.
My girlfriend's calling me. I got to leave the PC bong. Sorry, guys. I was going to TP into that fight, I swear.
This is one of those solo queue games that ends up being a 1v3.
Yeah.
Everyone else disconnected.
BDD has disconnected from the game. Well, we have a game on our hands, 35 minutes in. The Baron's going to spawn for a third time. And I just hope that this time Kingzone have 5 members in position ready to fight
You're
that
asking
objective.
for too much. Can we go a little bit more conservative?
4 members?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 members, the other one with no team.
Yeah.
That's what you
Sorry. All right. Well,
You're trying to buy a used car.
Sorry,
we're not
Kingzone
selling.
fans.
We're not selling Porsche Boxsters here. We're selling.
No.
We're selling bangers. You know. This one, it's been bit, but it's got a lot of personality. It's seen some stuff.
this is a fun game. It's definitely one you'd like to
Rascal.
take out to a party. Yeah, Rascal having a bit of fun up in the top lane. He's now going to rotate into the river. There's a ward spotting that as the Baron has spawned. And Score's thinking about it now. He's flashing in. He's going to find Cuzz, who is in a lot of trouble. They have so much CC. And talking about that one, they're looking to trade it back now, but the stone plate keeps Score alive. Rascal doing so much in the back line, though. Gets on top of Prey, is able to Zhonya's at a great time. Gets lanterned out of there as well. And SnowFlower will go down as the rest of KT a little bit too low. As the flash Q from Deft, not going to be enough, but the one fight will go the way of Kingzone.
Ended up being outplayed by the side of Kingzone. Tricky to pull off this comp in team fights, but they separate out threats and never are BD and Prey hitting the same target, and that could just be all she wrote.
We'll see. We'll have to wait because BDD and Prey still alive here. The inhibitor definitely going to go down to Kingzone, but they're not going to continue pushing. Maybe they'll set their sights onto that Baron buff as they do make their way that way.
Yeah, going to be more conservative here. I take your point. In the scenario, the game could have ended, but with who's alive, don't necessarily need to risk it. Kingzone are actually going to take a full back timing as well, as you also point out the very sweet hat. Rascal's already won the MVP here for his team, and the game does go that way. Score gets the pick, and they blow up Xinjiao, but they can't actually get the sort of team fight they want after this, because when is Prey and BDD ever hitting the same target? Prey actually spends most of this team fight walking and thinking about life, unfortunately, because the front line with with the instant death on Score, and then Alistair not being able to frontline either, it makes it very awkward. How about this as awkward times?
Another knock up here on a SnowFlower. That challenging Smite going to do a lot of work against that Alistair. Finally goes down. Didn't quite see how he got caught out there, but catch is a catch. A pick is a pick, and that's exactly what Kingzone's comp is good for. They get another one here. It is just the Alistair, though. So we'll see how they decide to handle this situation.
Rolling up to this Baron. Even with the lethality Varus this late into the game, everyone can take Baron pretty bloodlessly. Yep.
They're going to be looking to turn here if KT do want to get in there. Cuzz not the most tanky. Actually, not a ton of damage that's been going on here as TP going to be coming in from BDD.
What are KT going to do? They're going to try anything at all.
Well, they have vision now on the jungler. That's perfect. They can zone out Score here as the Baron going to get pretty low. Down it goes as the Baron buff here, 38 minutes, going to go the way of Kingzone. Now, once again, I feel like I've seen this before. The surrounding coming in from Kingzone, trying to corral them into a fight as the hook gets on to Prey here. But the Featherstorm comes in and a huge ultimate from BDD. Did KT actually do it this time around? It looks like they have, but Prey is going to go down. Rascal here is going to stay alive alongside Cuzz. Can they stop the push, though, is the real question.
What a monstrous engage by BDD. SnowFlower follows it up, but most of the work was done. And also going to interrupt Ignite onto Rascal. Is he done?
No, he's going to kill SnowFlower, actually. That is not going to work. And the Baron buff is going to make the Akali get back in time.
That means they probably can't end the game here, Valdez. They're going to have to back away. We're getting more.
What a fiesta is coming in here in game number 1. What is going on in this one? We got an Elder Drake now that KT are going to set their sights on, but no guarantee that they take that one down the way this game's going.
And it was so early in the piece, we knew this wasn't going to be the abstract thinker. This was all about the big explosions, Transformers, the League of Legends game happening in front of us. So this is the Fiesta Feels Good Man moment between KT and Kingzone. Kingzone are just playing because they gotta. KT are playing for their LCK lives. Here's a replay, and this is a first of SnowFlower. Just trading a face check and get vision, dies. Not getting a lot of backup here from his team, if we're going to be honest. But let's watch the big moment very, very shortly, which is BDD saying, wait, I used to be the best mid laner in Korea. Rascal on top of him, and he says, screw this Akali, it's Wombo time.
Yeah, you were mentioning the last fight, Bray just running around. BDD was doing the same thing. He used his Emperor's Divide on the Akali Shroud, trying to kill Rascal. This time around, it's a totally different focus, and that's exactly what they need. Get into that squishy backline, the Varus and the Vel'Koz. That's what you want to be hitting, and BDD was able to do exactly that. So more fights like that, and KT can absolutely win the fight.
Pull one out for the fourth Dirk. He lived a short life. He's now gone. He's been replaced by a nice Rolex. The Rolex has replaced him, so no damage. Damage reduction even. Swifties from Varus. He knows what his job is. He's not a Berserker who's 80 carries, so don't hate it. But we get one more. One more roll of the dice is my prediction between KT and Kingzone. Hopefully, it's a delightful one.
Should be pretty fun. As you can see, that Kingzone not necessarily scared of KT with their Elder buff. Walking up through the mid lane and saying, come at us, bros. Kingen spotted. As now Rascal actually turning on to him. There's going to be that hook, and Kingen, oh boy. You have done a whoopsie, as your Guardian Angel is going to be down. Aatrox can revive after all if you buy the item. As I'm not sure what that was, but Kingen gets out of position on Vision and gets taken down 100-0 twice.
He was on Vision, which he obviously couldn't have known, but also Akali was next to him and he was trying to brawl with her, which was, let's call it questionable. This Akali couldn't be any bigger. Yes, she does 50% kill participation. She is also 804 legendary Akali. This is the Akali you write songs about, and people are like, yeah, great tune, man.
Oh, yeah.
You have to say it's great because this is such a famous Akali. So King's going to roll down mid lane. Kingen, you know, it's not a minute and a half. We're not 60 minutes in, but it's still 23 seconds. They will lose their inhibitor for this. It wasn't the action we were waiting for, but it was still action.
They lost their inhibitor again for what should have been the third time in this game, was only the second time. As it does go down here. Oh, yeah, that's kind of how I felt after I saw him die.
He feels safe, right? Because he's on the flank with the blast plant. Why continue to trade? Like, you could Q once and then be like, okay, you know, take your hat.
It was kind of like Aatrox syndrome. You know, we talk about Lee Sin syndrome. It's like he wanted to use that third Q. He's like, no, I just got to get this out of my system. I got to put it on cooldown. And then he just gets hooked immediately. So, not the best Aatrox syndrome there.
It's spinning.
Yeah, we've had a game here in game number 1 to rule all games for the last once in a while.
A lot of fun decisions that are, I'm sure some people will question. For example, Prey has no Infinity Edge at this point, which this late in the game, you would almost always expect it. Now, you could argue that BDD and Kingen are probably going to do enough damage and maybe him living longer and being able to frontline longer. We've already seen plenty of fights where he's been zoned out. But I think this only works if you play to the itemization. If you're really going to frontline with this, I guess it's fine. If you're going to bait with it, I guess it's fine. My first instinct is no, don't do it. But there is still going to be lines of play that suit Prey in this scenario. And it's, to be fair, normally this Azir would be peeling for Desire. Let's be clear, BDD's getting in there. So
yeah, we're all getting in there.
If everyone else is getting in there, then maybe there's an argument to drop the IE in the build.
You get a bunch of attack speed. You have nice lifesteal as well with the Bloodthirster that he picked up. see how long he can survive. That's going to be the way that it goes.
How do you think it goes? We're going to probably find out soon.
I think Kingen are going to try to split here as the hook is going to come down. Kingen super low once again as the focus 1v1 from the top laners is going to be good as BDD nearly gets him in range, but actually Rascal in a ton of trouble is going to go down, and Kingen didn't even die on the trade. So BDD ends up helping his friend this time around. The dive does not make sense, and actually helping Kingen works, and now that's 5 on 4.
Kingen got super low and was ticking down. He'd be baited into thinking it was Ignite, but it was his Death's Dance almost killing him, but not ticking a further tick that would have been the mortal one. So because of that, Akali goes down, uses summoners as well. 30 seconds on Rascal. How about a post 40-minute Baron to continue the fiesta?
Gonna be the name of the game here, but we're looking for a hook. Hook is going to miss, and it's 4 on 5 now. Kingzone, I don't think they can win this. Naehyun immediately gonna go down as KT now can set their sights easily onto the Baron.
Naehyun far too far up, even with Flash goes down. Baron dies instantly, of course it does. It's Azir Xayah at 45 minutes. Kingzone running around. Their mid-game comp has been outscaled for a very long time, even though Rascal has been doing his darndest to keep them in the game. Is that finally the last nail in the coffin? It's turning out this coffin has a lot of nails in it.
Well, we're gonna get one gigantic nail if that Elder Drake does go down to KT. To see that Kingzone, they're setting up for it right now, but they don't have Naehyun for 22 seconds. How exactly are they going to challenge this one? They're gonna try to poke it down.
I'm gonna predict confidently.
Well, that's one way to do it. I would say hesitantly, but...
Have you been watching this game?
Yeah, I suppose that's not the right word, as Cuzz gonna be looking for the steal. We got Rascal here trying to zone away SnowFlower. They're looking for vision. They don't really have it, as Cuzz gonna go in early, gonna take the lantern out, actually. Past the stopwatch, but he is so dead. TusiN goes down. Naehyun finally making his way back. As the slow will go down onto Kingen. Rascal behind them. And he's on vision. Is going to be able to Zhonya's that one, but can he actually get out of this one? No, he cannot. Does the perfect execution. Not going to be good enough, as the Featherstorm will be good enough for Bray. He's going to set up that extra kill eventually onto Cuzz, as Kingzone are being run down in this game by SnowFlower. The last chance here by Naehyun is not going to be good enough, as Deft is all alone with the rest of his team down.
Deft could try to buy time. It's probably too long with 40 seconds up, but look where the minion waves are. This is the only one that's coming into the base. So they need to ride this one in, and I don't think Deft can do enough.
I mean, we got 30 seconds on Rascal. That's going to be way too long. Deft, he'll try his damnedest, but I don't think this is going to work out as well. He's going to try to poke out the cow here.
And too tanky.
Yeah, Score going to come in here and zone him out. And KT in 47 crazy minutes will take game number 1.
What a weird and wonderful game where Kingzone Dragon X did a lot right, a lot wrong. KT Rolls did a lot right, a lot wrong. And that is a little bit more surprising on the Kingzone side. And yet, with recent results not as surprising, how will they ever pick up the pieces? I think both coaching stars are going to have to be a lot more emotional rather than VOD review, because the VOD review would be a couple of hours on this one. KT pick it up. They need to pick up the match victory to stay out of relegations, and it's not even a guarantee there. And you and I have to work out our MVP votes. That is also going to be quite the tall tale.
MVP to both teams for making a very fun and exciting game number 1. It was not the literally creep killers this time around. It was a lot of fighting in this one, as I think there's only 2 people really that kind of deserve the MVP, probably BDD or SnowFlower. The rest of them kind of just doing their jobs mostly. The other guys were setting up the plays and actually making the comeback happen, as KT coach going to be happy with this one. Well, he'll be happy they won. Let me rephrase that. Maybe not happy with the way they won, as both coaches a lot to talk about after that game.
Well, let's look at if. So 2-0 is obviously on the cards if they can win game number 2. It doesn't really matter because they can't overcome game score of the enemy. So it's pretty simple here. They'll want to close it out as fast as possible. And then what do you even do for the next 30 hours or so as KT, right? Because you just have to see that 8 p.m. game tomorrow to know what your fates are. The celebrations will be mooted after today. Kingzone looks a bit shell-shocked. KT look like they're trying to rally. That's important for KT. Wonder if there'll be any subs on the KT side. I guess after a victory, maybe the answer is no.
Yeah, I'd say maybe. I think Kingen definitely had a couple of whoopsies, but the question is, would Smeb coming in really be better at this point? After what we have seen in 2019, always is a question, as some big damage numbers for the side of Kingzone, but it just didn't matter in the end.
I mean, look at the gold, right? It's 8,500 scale, and Kingzone was there for 10 minutes, you know? Like, or I guess it's 7 or 8 minutes of the time, and yet KT had the scaling draft. You wouldn't have known it. There was definitely a lot of Fiesta up and down from there. But in the end, KT were able to wait. Kingzone gave them too many opportunities getting back. You need formation to pull off a draft like Varus and the Vel'Koz, and there were points where they really were a bit headless chickens in this game. It was kind of amazing how poor it was.
That's one way to put it for sure. If you're a Kingzone fan and you saw the 3 of them run down the river into 5 KT members, you're pulling out your hair. And you're kind of scratching your head, wondering what the hell that was, as it got KT back in the game and means KT wins game number 1. So we're going to have to wait and see who wins game 2 after the break.
완전 라인으로 돌던가 알리. 라인으로 돌던가.
나 보였어. 아칼리가 나 마카한다.
일단 계속 쳐. 백코드 나온다.
싸워봐.
오케이, 자, 바로. 장로.
장로.
가자. 천천히 가.
천천히. 나 아칼리 왔다.
이 아칼리 얘들아.
아칼리 노플. 아칼리 나이스.
마른 노벨.
앞에. 짜오. 나 앞에 더 볼게. 천천히 빼면서. 괜찮아. 와. 라이가 킬러게. 와드 하나 해줘.
와드 해달래. 와드.
없어. 아, 있다. 와드 가갖고.
마른 노벨.
바텀으로 가자.
하지마.
야, 끝났어. 바텀.
천천히.
아, 끝났다고. 바텀으로 끝났어.
알파 뒤로 오라고 있어.
가자.
바로 노플.
나이스.
바로 노플이야?
어.
노플이야.
일단 집중하자.
끝내자.